No, Gong, honestly, it's just, I didn't realize when I got into Gong what an incredible company it is. I truly believe we're building a once in a generation transformational business. What we say at Gong is we say, okay, we want you to hit your numbers, obviously, but we also say, how is Gong better because you're here? So if you only care about your number and how much money you're going to make, that's not the sort of person we want.
I don't know if you've looked into like OpenAI or ChatGPT or...
It's incredible how the world is innovating. And honestly, I choose to be more optimistic. I don't think we're wiping out, millions of jobs. I think it's just being more efficient and more we're just smarter, right? It's just, you want to live in the Stone Age or do you want to evolve? Too many leaders are too worried about being overly polished or overly perfect, and that comes across as just really boring and inauthentic. And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to speak as me. I'm not going to speak as some phony professional version of me. We're starting a region from scratch. And you should be excited by that. Like, I'm a builder. I love building. But if you ever hire someone who doesn't have a building mindset, that makes it difficult.
Do you ever switch off? Can you ever switch off?
To be honest, I used to be really bad at this and I've gotten better. And I say it's the lesson that's taken me the longest to learn. When I was at Goldman, I developed a seizure disorder. And I now have them probably 2 or 3 times a year. Holidays, weekends, I've definitely gotten better at.
And what would be the best piece of advice or feedback that someone's given you in business?
I think 2 things. One, I think the leader sets the tone. And I think the second thing then is what I always say to ICs is, and what someone once said to me, you're the sort of person that never needs to be asked twice to do something. I think that honestly, you're literally in the 1%. If you are someone that can always be relied on to do what you say you will do, when you say you will do it, you will go far in your career.
Wendy, welcome to the podcast.
Great, delighted to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're our first podcast guest of 2023. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, any goals? Are you one of these type of people that set goals for the year?
No. Sorry to disappoint. My New Year's resolution is the same every year, which is to drink better wine.
Yeah.
So I managed to achieve it most years. So.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Everyone always wants to give something up. I'm like, just take up something like more drinking or eat more or even exercise more. Just get the balance right.
There you go. Well, we did this actually with my management team the other day. We went around and said, what's everyone's New Year's resolution? And there's someone in the office who's basically the polar opposite of me. And he's all about, clean eating and healthy living and doesn't really drink. And I'm like, I'm not built that way. So I'm all about live like you might die tomorrow. So I enjoy my fried chicken and red wine.
Yeah, that's the way to be. Those people always make you feel bad about yourself, don't you? Those guys.
I feel bad for him, to be honest.
It sounds so boring, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was like, one of us is going to live longer, and I think it's going to be me. So I'm going to buck the trend. Yeah.
Probably less stress.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
It. Going back then, in terms of your career path, what age were you when you decided what career path you wanted to take?
Well, that's interesting because I had said ever since I was a little girl I wanted to be a vet, so I love animals. And so all my life said be a vet, be a vet, be a vet. I was in school, I studied, did the 2 science classes you had to do, tried to get the points for veterinary, got the points for veterinary, which I was obviously very pleased with, but missed it on the first round because there was too many people with the same points. So I just literally that moment, my sort of changed the career trajectory of my life, because I basically went, wait a second, do I want to be a vet? I'd said all my life I do, but then I was like, I don't like science. I'm not particularly good in a crisis, and I don't like seeing animals in pain. So I was like, I'd actually be a terrible vet. So but I really thought I wanted to do veterinary. So then I got offered veterinary, I turned it down, which was insane. I also had applied for the Army Equitation School, and I was trying to be the first female in there. They send you a letter at the end of it, and they say, okay, where your rank? I got down to the last 6. I was the only female in the last 6. And they send you a letter to say where you ranked, and I ranked 3rd, and they took the top 2. And I was like, I just felt like a loser at all fronts. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then they sent me a letter a few months later going, actually, somebody pulled out so you can have the slot if you want. At that point, I was in college. So basically, my second choice after veterinary was business and French. And so I did business and French in Trinity, not knowing what I was going to do with it. And honestly, all the way through college, didn't know what I was going to do. And then I went the last year I was in college, all the investment banks come and do milk rounds, and they come onto campus and they give you, free food, free drink, which is really why I went in the first place. And I saw a video of the trading floor. When I saw a video of the trading floor, I was hooked. I thought investment banking was just spreadsheets and sort of, nerding away in your cubicle. But then when I looked at the trading floor, I was like, oh my God, that looks insane. That's what I want to do. So I did 32 interviews over a period of 6 months during my final year in college. And Goldman offered me the job. It's basically knockout rounds. They're trying to see your stamina. One day you do 10 interviews, one after the other, all in a room. It's a bit of a boiler room scenario. But yeah, kind of fell into it.
Brilliant. And what was that like in terms of the culture of the trading floor? You're in London, you're in Chicago with Goldman.
Yeah.
Was it absolutely nuts?
It was nuts, but I loved it. Like, it's high pressure, high intensity. You started work at 6 a.m. every day. And literally, I could count in one hand the amount of times I went for lunch or away from the desk. I used to have like 9 screens. And so the heat from the screens coming at you, because you'd be monitoring all the stocks that you're trading. And but honestly, it was so exciting because every day, whatever news broke that day, you're constantly watching the ticker to see what news is coming out. And if it was in one of your stocks, then obviously that was the highlight of the day. And it was and the thing about trading is it's completely unpredictable. You never know what's about to happen. And so I was actually trading airlines the day of the tube bombings in London. So that was a pretty intense day and I was on the trading floor as well for September the 11th when it hit. I wasn't actually at that point a trader because I was only in the firm a couple of months.
Yeah.
But it is literally, it's the equivalent of like sort of a breaking news newsroom, and you were on the front lines of like, because obviously the second news hits, everyone wants, like, for September the 11th, everyone wants to sell luxury goods. Everyone wants to, it's like travel's going to get hit, hospitality, all of that, and people move. If you move quickly, you make money. So. Yeah. I loved the fast-paced, adrenaline nature of it.
Yeah.
2008 was tough, financial crisis. I was also trading US financials in London, so I was a sales trader for US financials, and that was intense. So there's definitely, I definitely got the, your heart jumping into your chest, or your heart, like that whole feeling of, oh gosh, I almost jumped in front of a bus there multiple times a day.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not for the faint-hearted, but I loved it. It was brilliant. It was great.
Looking back at that experience, it must have built your resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't survive at Goldman Sachs for 10 years if you're a wallflower or overly sensitive or not able to put up with the knocks. But I really, to be honest, I just loved it. It was such a privilege to work there, and it gets a bad rap, and there's bad people everywhere, but like I worked with some people at Goldman who are friends for life, and I really, really loved it. And it's honestly, I often say, some of the new generation could do with a stint in the Goldman Sachs trading floor. There was like toughen up a bit. Yeah. Any of the overly sensitive. My work-life balance isn't enough types. It's just hard work. Nothing beats hard work, right? If you've got a good work ethic and you work hard, like good things happen. And I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. Are you a believer then in hard work beating talent?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I even reference this with horses. I have 3 horses. And I've had horses that are so talented, but they're just brats, and they have tantrums, and they just, they're never on your side. And then I have horses that are not as talented, but would go, jump to the moon for you. And I will take them every day of the week over people, who are just like, I also very much try and avoid hiring lone wolves, anyone who's just out for themselves, any superstars. And Goldman actually was very big on not having a superstar mentality on the floor. We were all in it together. So it was always a we, it wasn't about I. And I know that sounds a bit like cheesy, whatever, but it's also a mentality you grew up with where it's like, you're not the star of the show, right? It's about we all rise together. And at Gong, we have an operating principle, which is win as a team. And I do truly believe that. I don't like superstar anythings. It's not about that.
Yeah, that's the thing in terms of obviously high performers sometimes can be a lone wolf, so it's just about managing that so it doesn't create a toxic culture even, because that's what it can do.
Totally. And what we say at Gong is we say, okay, we want you to hit your numbers, obviously, but we also say, how is Gong better because you're here? So if you only care about your number and, how much money you're going to make, that's not the sort of person we want. Yeah. It's truly not. Everyone needs to rise together, feel a responsibility for the person sitting next to you and the wider team and your manager and everything. It's about the wider team. So
yeah. And how did you find the transition then from the trading floors and then big tech, where it's going from maybe, people shouting at each other and it's loud and noisy, and then you're going to sales and big tech, which is more of a, I don't know, is it more of an arm around the shoulder type of culture?
Yes, it would be very different. Yeah, it would be very different. Honestly, it was really, really hard to change industries. Like, I spent a whole year interviewing for like sales jobs, for individual contributor roles, everything, and I couldn't get a job anywhere. So everyone would look at my CV and go, oh no, you're way too experienced. But I was way too experienced, but also not experienced enough, because I had like 11 years or just over 10 years at Goldman Sachs on my CV. And it's, so I didn't know about like ad tech, or I didn't know what I didn't know in technology. And I'm very big advocate now for people who try to change industries to try to help them out with that, because I just think, I was so frustrated so many times with people telling me I was overqualified. And I always say to recruiters, don't tell me we're not hiring someone because they're overqualified. If we have someone who is technically overqualified, whatever that means, and knows what the job is willing to do it for the money that we're willing to pay them, then aren't we delighted and lucky to have them, right? If they're technically overqualified. I don't discount someone just because of that, because it's subjective. And, especially moving industries, like I had the door slammed in my face for a whole year. I couldn't get a job anywhere as an IC anywhere. And I eventually got one at Facebook, earning like literally 10% what I used to as a contractor in marketing, just to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was really hard. And to be honest, it was I'd like to think I'm not someone with a major ego to begin with, but geez, your ego would be 100% dead and buried if you, go from a trader at Goldman Sachs and then I had to crawl my way banging every door down in technology. And I was like, yeah, no. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, people can pigeonhole in terms of kind of skills and experience and look at someone in a certain industry and think they're not going to be able to transition to this. So
totally,
it always helps to probably have even a recruiter who can sell that person.
Yeah.
And obviously, arrange a phone call rather than just going off a CV.
Yeah, and realistically, like my ramp would have been longer, but like at the end of the day, most people in the 2000s joined investment banks. Like investment banks was where it was at, and that's where the top talent wanted to go. It was either management consultancy or investment banks. And so right now there's still a pool of talent of people who want to change industries, and they're really, really, they have all of the attributes to be successful in technology as well, and you just need to be given a chance. Now, I will say it's easier for bigger firms to absorb people changing industry when you're a startup or you're sort of a whatever earlier stage company. It's harder because you don't really have the luxury of a lot of structure around to help people on board and to help people ramp. But yeah, I think you're never too old to change careers, and I really encourage people. I see sometimes people think, oh, I've done this, so I'll never be able to make a change, or I'm too late, or I'm too old. I'm like, I don't believe in that at all. It's like it's never too late to change industries.
No, definitely not. And I love it when I see someone who's been working in a bank all their life and they go into a tech company or tech sales and, they don't regret that decision, and you can just see that it changes them.
Exactly. And it's so invigorating as well. New challenges, new everything. So
yeah, no, exactly. I have to ask you about your family. So quite a successful family, 3 siblings. One works for Google. Your other brother works for Facebook. Obviously, you're working site lead for Gong. Has there been sibling rivalry, or is that what people just assume?
Sibling rivalry. Well, I think I'm crowned generally the most social of the 3, so I think they'd all agree to that. Most crack is here. No, we don't really have sibling rivalry. My big brother Ronan is 7 years older than me. He's actually recently just moved from Google. He's now president of EMEA for Snapchat. So, so he's moved there. And David is at Facebook, or Meta. And very senior there as well. So we don't, to be honest, I joke about this. We do not spend any time talking to each other about tech. We tend to talk to each other about whose dog is most annoying. We are all going skiing in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we won't kill each other at the end of it. But we get on very well, and we're good sounding boards. I was the last one to tech. Obviously, the 2 of them were in tech beforehand, and they were, to be fair, they did inspire me to join because I saw that they loved their jobs. They were challenged. They were well looked after, and I was like, okay, well, if I move back to Dublin from London, that's what I want to do. I want to move into technology. So they were definitely the inspiration, but I joke that I'm about to surpass both of them now. Okay, so not only in terms of crack, but in terms of success and everything. Yeah.
Do you believe then, in terms of nature versus nurture, like is it down to upbringing? Is it down to obviously parents and how you're raised?
Well, interesting you asked that, because I am actually adopted. So, and Ronan and David are not. So Ronan's 7 years older than me. Dave is 2 years younger than me, and I'm adopted. I would say that it's funny actually, if people see a photo of the 3 of us and they say, okay, guess which one's adopted, they normally guess Ronan. I think, to be honest, I think we've all I think we were well raised. I think I probably believe in nurture, because we've all had relative success in life. We were very lucky. We have a family who invest a lot of time with us. I always remember Mum helping us with our homework and everything after school, and holding us to high standards. And we all had very strong work ethic. My parents have very strong work ethic. They never sit down. They're like, literally, to be honest, it's exhausting. It's like, just sit down, relax, for God's sake. They're always on the move. So I think we all get that from them as well.
Yeah.
And that if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, right? Even if it's a small thing. I really believe in that. Like, sweat the small stuff. Like, if you're going to do something, do it properly. Don't just be sloppy with it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say do something, if you say you will do something, then do it. So there's some like basic standards like that were definitely instilled in us, and I feel very fortunate.
Do you, you're all in leadership positions, so where did that come from? Have you always seen yourself as a leader growing up, or?
No, I mean, I definitely got called bossy, but now, Sheryl Sandberg started that band, the word bossy. It's not bossy, it's leadership for girls. No, I think we're actually, our three personalities are very different. So I've always had a very strong personality, in terms of, just, getting shit done and making stuff happen and everything else. And so, David's much more, laid back, and Ron's probably somewhere between the two of us. So I don't know. I suppose I like to make things happen, and I'm extremely impatient. And the leadership qualities that I definitely need to work on, because we all, have areas of development, is make sure that I'm listening, that I don't, just like take up all the air in the room, and make sure that, especially with introverts, I'm an extreme extrovert. So with introverts, make sure that I give them space to be heard as well. Like we did this MBTI thing with, the management team, and it's like, what do extroverts think about introverts, and the other way around. And extroverts were always like, why don't they just say what they mean? Like, it's so annoying. But like, I've actually, yeah, exactly. Speak up. How am I meant to know you think that if you don't tell me? But then if I don't create space for them to tell me, well then, it's daunting. So that's definitely a work in progress, and I'm far from perfect at it, but I'm very conscious it's something that's very important. And I don't want a leadership team of everyone like me. Luckily, they're not. They're definitely not like me. So it's a well-rounded team that I have now. So.
Yeah, and in that position as a leader, and standing up and speaking in front of people, do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? Do you ever think, I'm here now, but maybe I shouldn't be?
Oh, well, you'll be surprised at what I'm about to say. So I was, I'm 107 now /43. But when I was 38, I decided. Oh, so had a pathological fear of public speaking all my life.
Yeah.
Like very strong fear of it, to the point that if I got asked to do, read a prayer of the faithful at my friend's wedding, I'm like, no, sorry, I can't. So I organised a ball in London in aid to save the children back in. Whenever it was 2004, 2005, when the tsunami hit, because my brother was involved in it. He was obviously fine, thankfully. But I organised a ball because of that, because my whole family were going to be over there a couple of days later. And, it was amazing. We raised £130,000 for Save the Children. And, but I sort of looped in 4 of my friends to help me organise it. And, I was the only one that wouldn't put my name in the hat to actually kick it off and do the opening speech. I was like, I don't want to do that. I'd have too much anxiety. So basically, when I turned 38, I knew it was going to hold me back in my career, because I kept saying no to stuff. And there was one comment my big brother made, which was like, no one's listening to you anyway. Everyone's just thinking about what they're going to have for their dinner. And literally every time I get worried, I think, no one's listening to me anyway. It's grand. Sure, they're just thinking about what they want for their dinner. So I had a pathological fear of public speaking, basically, in summary. Yeah. And I eventually just got over myself, and I was like, sure, listen, just get on with it. It's grand. But I still do. I get very nervous before. And people assume because I'm so outgoing and because I'm generally a noisy person that I don't. And I come across quite confident that I don't get nervous, but I do get nervous. I get very, very nervous. It actually takes a lot out of me.
Yeah. It's just kind of coming up with the methods to overcome those fears, and maybe a little push from your brother as well then.
Yeah, totally. And it's also like just you've the responsibility as a leader as well to show up and to say what you mean as well. One thing I will say is I'm not known for my polished professionalism. Like, I tend to just say what I think. So, but I do think there's a lot's been written about vulnerability in leadership, but I think it's too many leaders are too worried about being overly polished or overly perfect, and that comes across as just really boring and inauthentic. And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to speak as me. I'm not going to speak as some phony professional version of me.
Yeah, exactly. I think team members are more inspired when they have a leader who wears their heart on their sleeve rather than a polish. It's like a politician,
Right.
Exactly.
And I'd be the furthest
thing. A lot of people are inspired by them, so.
Right. Yeah. I would be the furthest thing now you could find from a politician. So there's definitely no one's never been accused of that one. So yeah.
How do you deal with then inevitable conflict in business?
So I would say this has been a process as well for me, because I would be somewhat hot-headed as well. So I've had to learn to breathe and take a breath. And but I think I'm someone who really believes in there's a book by Kim Scott called Radical Candor. And the concept is you basically care personally but challenge directly. And so I am very big on, like, people have said I'm one of the most direct people they've ever met. And, there's ways of being direct. Like, I don't need, somebody can cope with 10 out of 10 me being direct, and someone else needs 2 out of 10 me being direct.
Yeah.
But I think conflict is necessary. Like, if you're not having conflict, like, one of the worst places I've worked, I won't name it, but it's like, it was very passive aggressive. Like, everyone said everything behind each other's back. That is so toxic and unhealthy. And that creates, like, all versions of weirdness, politics in the office, and it's a really uncomfortable place to work. At least we have this principle in Gong called no sugar, which is basically, it's not an excuse, to be rude, but it's mean, say what you mean, right? And then how much easier is the world if everyone just says what they mean? Now, you do it in a way that's respectful and is not rude, and you choose the moment. But like, God, it's so much easier just people say what they think.
Yeah.
I think most people want everyone to say what they think, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but some organizations are so political and so passive aggressive, and I can't abide that.
Yeah. Of it.
So no offense to my American friends, but they're very enthusiastic, and there's there's lots of whooping and cheering and hollering. So the Irish tend to be obviously a bit more cynical and a bit more yeah, right, it's grand. And then the Israelis, the directness, definitely, like I am extremely direct, and even I was slightly alarmed by how direct the Israelis are, but I actually love it. It's just so productive when you do that. And the thing is, you can sit in a room with them, with our exec team, for example, and everyone just like goes to each other and there's like, no, I disagree with you, and here's why. And so if you came from a place where you aren't used to people saying what they actually think, it's like really like alarming. But you're just like, it's so refreshing, and everyone shakes it off and leaves the room, and everyone's great friends and colleagues, and it's like, it's so refreshing. Like, I think we should all be more like the Israelis, frankly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So then you don't have to wonder what people are thinking.
No.
Yeah.
It's so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Like you just get shit done when people, okay, that's what that person really thinks. Good.
Yeah. And when it comes to scaling businesses, obviously there's always unforeseen things. What are some of the biggest challenges you've encountered?
Well, I would say if I go back to the beginning at Gong, launching. So I was the first hire for Gong in EMEA in June of last year. Not last year. What year is that now? 2021. And I would say I would go back and I would hire a recruiter to start at the same time as me, because that was hard at the beginning. Like the time to hire in EMEA is so much longer than the US. And I think that having someone on the ground at the same time as the leader starts would have been really helpful. And knowing the local market, obviously we use great firms, yours being one of them, to help us with that.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. No, I appreciate that. You help us find our great engineering site leaders. So, but it is something that I wish we'd done earlier, is built the in-house recruiting team earlier as well, just because it's just easier to have someone sitting beside you every day with that. So I also think educating your American and Israeli colleagues about why is EMEA different, and getting everyone on the same page. So when I joined, I met all the exec team, and it was clear to me everyone had a different idea about what it meant to launch in EMEA. And so one of the first things I did was try and get on the list of top 3 priorities for the company for the next year. And I was like, this is why it has to be. Like, launching a region is hard. It's going to require an inordinate amount of time and investment up front before you see the payoff, but it can be really worth it. EMEA tech can be 25 to 30% of global revenue for many major tech firms. But it requires a lot of time and mind share from people. And so just getting them to think about EMEA was a shift in the mindset. So that I spent a lot of time on that. And then, when you're scaling, it's like I always joke, I was cleaning the loos. Like there's no structure, right? It's like you just have to get your hand. Like, I don't want to hire anyone who was a prince or a princess and wasn't willing to do stuff that's technically outside of their remit. Everyone has to be open to, it's not perfect. Yes, we have a lot of things that we need to fix because we're starting a region from scratch. Yeah. And you should be excited by that. Like, I'm a builder. I love building. But if you ever hire someone who doesn't have a building mindset, that makes it difficult. So, but like, honestly, I'm really proud of where we've come. We have 80 people now, and we've, as you know, we've engineering team, we have go-to-market teams, so marketing. We have we've a really good culture, built a good culture, and a good sort of, we're in office. I'm in the office most days when I'm not traveling, and most people are in the office 2 or 3 days a week. So it's working out really well.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I even see on LinkedIn in terms of the updates and obviously what life is like at Gong, but it actually seems like people are literally loving it and, enjoying it. And it seems to be a real great team culture, which is good. Yeah, well, it's weird. We do actually like each other. But, it's something funny. Like, it's like with Goldman, when I did the 32 interviews, they told me after, it's like, you're basically going, can I sit beside this person for 12 hours a day? So when I'm interviewing people, I'm looking and going, does this person, like, there's the fun element? Like, I am always looking for someone who's got an edge. I joke to my team like flamingos. I'm looking for someone who's a bit of a flamingo or a bit of a peacock or a bit of a, has got some edge, right? So I don't want beige humans. I want people with a bit of oomph about them. And then
And I also joke with the graduates, like, don't be beige in your interview, be who you are, right? So don't be some watered down weird version of yourself. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I think it really is. We've got a good flock of flamingos there now. We've good crack. We also have the dogs. So 6-7 dogs come to the office every day, and that's always entertaining as well. And then we dressed up a couple of the team as Santa and an elf and a turkey before Christmas, and we had the Gong kids come in, so all the mini ones, they got to hit the gong and everything else as well. So no, I'm really proud of the culture. We do have good. We work very hard, and we have a big responsibility building this region out from scratch. It's a huge responsibility. We take it very seriously, but I never believe that's at the expense of fun. You can have fun and be excellent at your job.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's great that, you've done it. And as you say, now there's a blueprint, in terms of site leads and companies moving into Ireland and maybe placing a site lead and just not knowing everything they need to do to support them. Like you say, a local recruiter with their feet in the ground who obviously know the network.
Right.
Yeah. And
I will say, I'll give a plug here for Frontline Ventures, so Stephen McIntyre and co. They do some great reports. Or they produce a couple of great sort of documents around advising American firms about what they should think about before they launch in EMEA. And they've been very, very helpful. So they were very helpful to me before I started. And and they bring together a community of the sort of heads of EMEA as well for discussions. So kudos to them for the work they've done there.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. There's nothing better than just getting people in the room, like, site leads around a table who can kind of share the experience and give advice to future site leads or people who are going into the position. So no, that's great that they do it.
Yeah, no, it is.
Do you ever switch off? Can you ever switch off? Do you have a rule? Does the phone go in the drawer when you finish work, or?
Oh no, I wouldn't go that far. No, to be honest, I used to be really bad at this, and I've gotten better. And it's the lesson that's taken me the longest to learn. When I was at Goldman, I developed a seizure disorder. So it's not epilepsy, but it looks like epilepsy. And it was like I had a seizure at like 10 o'clock on a Friday night on the trading floor when there was only one other person still there. And it was the first seizure I had, and then I had another one like 3 months later, and I now have them probably 2 or 3 times a year. And so it was the biggest wake up call. It was literally like, and you can imagine like working at Goldman Sachs and trading US financials during the financial crisis, like the stress of that. And then also I was in a bad marriage, and I just literally, so I didn't have any relief at home. And so my brain was shot, and my body literally flung itself on the ground, told me I need to look after myself. So I don't think I'm going to win any awards, as I said, on the diet or on the diet front, but I is something that, like, I really believe in holidays. And when I go on holidays, I delete all of my, apps and delete everything about, like, I fully switch off work. I have, my team know where they can find me if they need me. If there's ever a people issue, I want to know about that always. But holidays, weekends, I've definitely gone better. And horses, I have 3 horses, so I go and see their competitions. I have a girl who rides them for me, and hoping one of them will go to the Olympics. Living vicariously through them. So so being around animals, being outside nature, being with my horses. I'm obviously a social person, going skiing a couple of times in February. Like, love Formula One. I've been to Miami Formula One last year. So I like nice holidays, basically, and that helps fuel me in between.
Yeah, it's just finding the balance, isn't it? So you don't burn out. Like,
right.
That was obviously part of it then when you were at Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. There's definitely a risk of that.
At both ends.
Yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that, but I said the holidays keep me alive.
Yeah, that's good. And what would be the best piece of advice or feedback that someone's given you in business, and how you took it on board?
I think 2 things. One, I think the leader sets the tone. So, like, I'm someone, I wear my heart in my sleeve. So I remember once one of my horses died, and I went into the office. And the thing is, for some people, that'd be, it's just a horse. But for me, they're like my kids. So I shouldn't have been in the office because I was extremely distraught. But I was just trying to hide away. And because I'm someone who's normally so outgoing and, generally positive, like, it was very obvious there was something wrong with me. And so I brought the whole mood of the whole office down. And my manager said to me afterwards, like, you shouldn't have come in then. You should have known that, like, that wasn't the right thing to do. And so I think the leader setting the tone, as I said, wear my heart in my sleeve. So sometimes I have to hide in my office if I'm, everyone has bad days and things happen, and sometimes you're sad, or sometimes you've got stuff going on in life. And so I retreat so people don't see me when I'm like that. Because I'm conscious that I can bring everyone down. I can also raise everyone up, but I can bring people down. And I think the second thing then is what I always say to ICs is, and what someone once said to me, you're the sort of person that never needs to be asked twice to do something. I think that, honestly, you're literally in the 1%. If you are someone that can always be relied on to do what you say you will do, when you say you will do it, you will go far in your career. Yeah. It sounds so basic, but so many people have to be chased, have to constantly be re-asked to do something. They miss deadlines. They're not on top of it. They can't be relied upon. If you're someone that can be relied upon, you'll go so far.
Yeah, yeah. And have you developed, it sounds like even a coping mechanism in terms of kind of tragedy or sadness or things that happen in your life? Like how do you deal with that yourself? Do you rely on family, rely on friends as well?
Yeah, I have great friends. So I think my friends are something that one of the things I'm most proud of my life is I have a very good network of friends. I think I am a good friend, and I also really invest in my friendships. So normally I have a few close people. I'd keep my circle pretty tight, but I whatever, go for dog walks or whatever with them and talk to them about it. And I have actually started, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now, that whole concept of gratitude. So I write 3 things I'm grateful for in the evening, and I know there's a lot of research around that, about something that if your mindset, keeping it positive, because we can all have bad days, but there's still always so much to be grateful for. So I try and make sure I do that. And then I work out 3 or 4 times a week, and with my trainer, and so that sort of just helps keep me alive as well. But I think you do need to have people, especially the more senior you get, the less people you're able to talk to about stuff that's going on. So a couple of close people who you can rely on no matter what are key.
Yeah, no, definitely a support network. And as you say, writing things down, it just helps people deal with things better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if it was a problem and you write it down, and it's kind of just getting it out there. It's almost like telling it to someone.
Totally. It's perspective. And and I am someone, I have definitely, how long was that? Maybe 12 years ago, something, I was diagnosed with depression, and I had anxiety, and I had a lot of that. And I remember saying once to a therapist, what do people think about if they're not worrying? I didn't know what people would think about if they aren't worrying. I was in general anxiety disorder, and it was so draining. It was all around the seizures, it was all around the bad marriage, and I was just so drained and so exhausted. And so I've come a long way with that stuff now. But if I ever felt myself spiral, I would go back and I'd speak to a therapist as well again. And it's something that you just have to be proactive with it, Make sure I book a massage once a month, stuff like that. Stuff that, it's kind of like, don't wait till you get into really in trouble. Try and be proactive with some of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, look after yourself. And do you think that we're in a better place now to where we were in the past in terms of talking about, depression and anxiety, given your days at, let's say, Goldman Sachs?
Yeah.
Could you talk to someone as freely back then as you can now?
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I think the vast majority of people suffer from some form of anxiety. I used to be very big on catastrophizing. So if my boss sent me a message saying, I need to chat for you 10 minutes tomorrow, I'm like, I'm getting fired. Yeah. It's like, obviously I'm getting fired. They finally found out about me, It's they're always catastrophizing. And so I think just being open about it. I've been open with my teams about my struggle in the past. I definitely got to a very low point where I wanted to commit suicide about 12 years ago. Yeah. I never got to the point of figuring out how I was going to do that. Yeah. But I knew it'd be better. I knew, in inverted commas, it'd be better for everyone if I wasn't there. So I've hit rock bottom. And it was, physical health, mental health, everything around that time. I just didn't see a way out. And so I think it's really important as a leader that you're brave enough to talk about these things. Because you can, on paper, look and say, okay, you've just you've got promotion after promotion, and you've got your life together, and you're like, well, no, actually, I really know what it feels like to just be totally overwhelmed and just not want to do it anymore. Yeah. So I know what it feels like. And so if I see people I work with who I think are spiraling, I will very much really push them to go and see a doctor, really push them to consider therapy, to consider if they needed some antidepressants, whatever. I'm really talk openly about it, because I want because nobody spoke to me about it back in the day. I had to figure it out myself. And I don't blame anyone for that. It just wasn't the culture in Goldman or at the time. But I did figure it out, and I got better through the help and the love of a couple of very close friends. My family. So yeah.
Well, at least you can then use your experience to help other people overcome it. Being empathetic as a leader, that must be so important.
Yeah. It is. And at the end of the day, I would hope my team would say, I never expect anyone to work when they're sick. And I really believe, at the end of the day, you hire great people. And if people are sick or they're mentally unwell, you've a responsibility to look after them. That's first. We're not saving lives. We're all. I want someone to treat me with kindness and respect, and my boss 100% does. And so so I definitely want that, and I want everyone on the team to know we actually care about them as humans. Yeah, not just a number.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and then that creates openness, obviously, in terms of the culture.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself then during business? Is there one thing that you've learned that maybe you didn't realize?
What have I learned that I didn't realize? What I learned that I didn't realize? It's a good question. I think people are always surprised, and I didn't give this a lot of thought, but other people have mentioned me. So I've never had like a master plan, right? As you can tell, like I wanted to be a vet and then I didn't, and then I wanted to be in the army exercise school and then I didn't, and then I was like, so I've never had a master plan. So I think what I've learned is like, I've always been someone who's just like open to opportunity.
Yeah.
And like there's so many books who say, and you asked me, the one the first question, do you write down your goals? Or I don't. And like it's the thing is, so I've learned, but I suppose there's so much school of thought about that's the right thing to do, and you need to have a plan, and you need to be here in XYZ years, and if I don't get that promotion or that title or that whatever, like I've never gone out and gone, oh, I want to be a CEO. I'm not feel like that. Like I just want to enjoy my job and feel like I'm good at my job, and you know, I really believe in the responsibility that's given to me to maximize the return for my employer and give my employees a great place to work. And so that makes me sound like Mother Teresa, but I kind of mean is like, my career, when I look back at it, I never had a plan. I am open to what comes along, and you make, if you do a good job and you're fairly sound, then good things happen. And I think I encourage people, I'm a big risk taker.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped me in my life. And I suppose if I look back and I think, okay, what make me potentially aside from other people, I would say it's two things. One, I have a very high tolerance for risk. And two, I have a very low need to be liked, actually, which I think so many people overarch on the need to be liked.
Yeah.
And it's only something I've realized in the last couple of years. I have a very low need to be liked. It's obviously nice to be liked, but like, that's not my North Star. It's like, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to have tough conversations with people. I wouldn't be as effective as a leader as I am if I overarched on need to be liked.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think so many people please, you know, especially in business.
Yeah.
Whereas you get older, it's probably something that you learn, you know, as you say, you don't need to be liked, and the circle can become closer but smaller. Totally. Which is great. Do you have someone that serves as a sounding board to bounce your ideas off?
Yeah, I do. I mean, depending on what it is, it's a very good friend of mine, Elizabeth Bradley, who's at HubSpot, who's a very close friend. I would talk to her a lot about, you know, everything. And then I have an old college friend as well, who does, she would say herself, she doesn't work, she's the mother of 3 kids. And I'm like, I said, Fiona, all my career advice, the best career advice I've gotten is from you. So, and she's running the business. She runs the business. She's the brains behind. Yeah, her husband is now the CTO of Algolia as well, and Sean Mullaney. But Fiona is the brains behind the operation for both of us, I think. So I owe her a lot. So.
Okay, brilliant. Well, what's the future look like for Gong, for yourself even? For yourself at Gong?
For myself at Gong, hopefully bright. So no, Gong, honestly, it's just, I didn't realise when I got into Gong what an incredible company it is. Like I feel a bit fluky, to be honest. They found me, and I obviously did my research, and what I saw I liked, but it was only when I was fully in Gong that I was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. I truly believe we're building a once in a generation transformational business, like a tech company. Yeah. And it's incredible. Like I am bombarded on LinkedIn by people who want to work for us. Like it's such a high class problem because people who use the product are so obsessed with it. And what a privileged position to be in, like selling a product. Like how many B2B SaaS products are people obsessed with, right? They just aren't. It's not the sort of thing you'd ever hear, but there is an obsession with this product, and it is, and you know, our R&D team it's so good. Like we ship, the product is constantly innovating, constantly changing. So I feel like we are now a platform. We're launching a prospecting product, and we have a forecasting product. We are obviously a revenue intelligence product, and we are at the point where we are now such a multi sort of product company, whereas when I joined it was single product. And I think obviously that means, you know, greater TAM, greater opportunity, but now also we're multi-geography, multi-product, so we're really sort of at the next stage of our evolution, and I just feel really fortunate. I couldn't believe more strongly in what we're doing.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting, especially with technology and how things are going these days. I don't know if you've looked into like OpenAI or ChatGPT or anything like that. I'm literally thinking like, is this going to put jobs at risk, or is it going to create more jobs? You just don't know what the future holds.
It's so interesting you say that, because actually one of the guys on my team, Connor Little, this morning put a message in our Dublin Slack channel talking about he on the ChatGPT side, he said, you know, basically, I remember he said something like describe Gong in Formula One terms and then make it more fun, and what came out was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So I've been joking with my CEO that I want us to sponsor a Formula One team because I'm a big Formula One fan. So he's more into football. So I just sent him that. I was like, look at this. This is Gong described in Formula One terms. But no, it's incredible how the world is innovating. And honestly, I choose to be more optimistic. I don't think we're wiping out, millions of jobs. I think it's just being more efficient and more like we're just smarter, right? It's just, you want to live in the Stone Age, or do you want to evolve and do things like the mundane parts of life that have historically artificial intelligence. Like, for example, we have a product called Gong Assist, which like reps spend 23% of their time selling, right? A study by Forrester shows reps spend only 23% of their time selling. Like, what a waste. And what are they doing? They're like manually updating CRMs. They're doing all these manual boring stuff. Like Gong Assist, which is one of our products, automates all that. So a rep gets off a phone call or a Zoom call with someone, and they've said, I'll send you this follow-up, I'll send you this pricing sheet, I'll send you this customer reference, whatever. Gong pre-populates an email. It says, I just realized what you just said, so here's an email you can just send off to the customer. And it's like, it's just time-saving efficiency. Or if a customer is out of office and we get a bounce back saying an out-of-office message, Gong will alert the sales rep a day after the customer is back in office. Like, it's just, again, just being smarter, like wasting time with inefficient tasks. Like the world's evolving, and that's a great thing. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Even running a business, I know, especially as you say, salespeople, that is what they are great at, where you have them doing these tedious, kind of boring, admin tasks that they're not skilled at. And the best salespeople usually just forget about that. Totally. And then it becomes a problem, and you're like, whereas if you can automate it, it's obviously going to improve sales and performance, which is great as well. Speaking of Formula One, I was chatting to Sinead Fitzmaurice. I don't know if you know, she's the CEO of Transformate, but they sponsored Haas. Oh, right, did they? Oh, hilarious. Good old Gunther. Yeah, Gunther, hilarious. So she was saying funny. Meeting with him was hilarious. But that could be Gong's next move then. There we go. So, Amit, if you're out there listening, I'm all for it. I'd be Ferrari first. I'd be like, get yourself over to Monaco. That'd be nice. That's it. I finished the show with quick fire questions, which sometimes can be slow fire questions, but I'll try and keep them quick. Okay. First one is something you wish you did earlier in your career. Something I wish I did earlier in my career. This is going to be a slow fire question. What do I wish I did earlier in my career? Learn to hold my tongue at times. Yeah. Okay. I don't always need to say exactly what I think in the moment. Sometimes you need to take a breath, breathe, and then think about how you're going to phrase what you're about to say. Yeah. Wait for the right time. Yep. Yeah. What's your biggest failure and what keeps you up at night? Biggest failure is not looking after my health, pushing myself to the point where I actually developed a seizure disorder. So that was, that's, unfortunately something I still live with to this day. So, but I've gotten better about managing them. And what keeps me up at night? I think my biggest fear is my best not being good enough, which is such a gold star pupil answer, but it's also true. You're just like, God, I hope I'm up to the job, So it's like, but then I try and remember things like Michelle Obama said, I've been in every great room in the land, or every great table in the land, and let me tell you, they're not that smart. So I also take confidence from that. No, that's great. One thing you have watched or read that's changed your life? Watched or read that's changed my life. I don't know if it's changed my life, but I love Legacy by James Kerr. It's about the All Blacks and the disciplines of the All Blacks. Yeah. They've I think it's 15 different disciplines and things like sweep the sheds. It's like a mentality about leadership, which I really agree with. And clearly the All Blacks are potentially the best sporting team of all time. So I think that's a must-read book. Okay. And what is the biggest risk you've taken and why? Moving from finance to tech. My dad was like, you're going to be sweeping the floors in Donovan's, which is the local corner shop. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to back myself. Because walking away from Goldman Sachs on your own terms is obviously not many people do that. And I'd been in worked there for over a decade, but I knew I knew I wanted something else. But it's a big, it took me 32 interviews to get in there, and I stayed for over a decade for a reason. I loved it. So changing industries, walking away from that and going back to square one in tech was the biggest risk. But I'd do it 100 times over. Okay. And who is your biggest inspiration and has that changed over time? Yamini Rangan, she's the CEO of HubSpot. She's my mentor. I'm very fortunate. We worked together at Dropbox, and I was a sales leader. She was a VP there. We just got on really well. And she's so humble, and she doesn't know how good she is, which is what makes her amazing, obviously. So she's someone I always go to for career advice, and someone she's just a great human. She cares about people individually, and I said she does, even being CEO of HubSpot and winning all these awards, she still doesn't know how good she is. So but I love the fact that she's a great person first and foremost. Yeah. In terms of even this podcast, if we could get anyone on, who would you love to hear on it next? I also love Baroness Karen Brady. Oh, okay. So she's brilliant. Yeah. I love how, you know, her story is incredible, you know, managing director of a football team at the age of 21 and everything else and stuff she had to put up with the guys. Like she has a phrase as well which I use and keep it top of mind, which is, if you're the first woman in anywhere, you have a responsibility to hold the door open for as long and as wide as possible for other women to get through. And I really take that to heart, and I really believe in that. So
brilliant. So many inspiring women.
Yeah.
Well, look, thanks for coming on the podcast. You've been great, and I'm sure you've inspired a lot of women, males, everyone out there with your story, and I just want to thank you for being so open. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll leave you with this thought. I'm really Bridget Jones. She's my spirit animal, so, you know, I won't lose the road of myself anytime soon.
Be at home with a glass of wine.
Exactly it, yeah.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Martin. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.